qualification. Avec 3 catégories, on va retrouver la catégorie Pro, la catégorie App, et on va retrouver aussi...
Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the International GT Open. It is qualifying one here at Paul Ricard in the south of France. The sun beating down upon us, and we have got a stacked grid, a stacked lineup looking ahead to this afternoon's race. And we're now moving into the second half of the season's campaign. Dominic Baumann and Mikael Pitamba lead the way in the championship with 67 points to their name, with a slender 13-point gap to Marcos Seibert and Diego Menchaca in second. Still a lot of twists and turns to be had, and I'm not just talking about the twists and turns that are here at Paul Ricard, because we have got some fantastic rounds to come and lots, I'm sure, many stories to be told before we end up at our endurance round at Monza at the tail end of the season. As you can see, a very busy pit lane with many drivers getting set to go out for qualifying here at Le Castellet. And from what we've already seen and what we've already felt, as I said, the heat is getting heavy. 45.6 degrees track temperature with 30.8 degrees air temperature. You can only imagine what it's like in those cockpits right now, but nevertheless, they're going to be strong and resolute to the fact that they know they have to perform here at this phenomenal track that has hosted the French Grand Prix in the recent past. Your commentators, George Morgan here alongside me once again. It's Chris Stevens. Chris, we're all set.
We certainly are, and it is hot out there, George. I've just come back from the paddock, and it is approaching that point of uncomfortable heat out there. It is currently 30 degrees out there, and the air temperature, track temperature up to 45. So this is really going to be a hot one, especially this afternoon when we go racing at quite a late time, actually. It's the last race of the day, at which point the sun will be starting to dip below the horizon, but quite conversely, it actually gets a little bit warmer out there normally. So we have a 30-minute qualifying to come to set the grid for that race. Before that, though, and we have 33 cars out on track for this qualifying session. We're welcoming back drivers like Tiemann van der Helm, Giorgio Cernigioso and Jordan Pepper after they missed the Budapest round due to the clash with the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. But we have additional entries as well. The Good Speed team are finally here as well, adding another car into the Pro-Am Championship as well. They were due to be with us at the start of the season. We're now to 19 cars in Pro-Am, as the Lipa Lamborghini put in a request last night to be put from Pro into Pro-Am due to the performance of Marek Blasek, who is graded as silver by the FIA, but they say his performance is more of a bronze, and so they've requested to be put on Pro-Am. That has been accepted. So we're now 19 cars in Pro-Am. We have lost, though, and because quite big news for the AM Championship, the Timo Rumpfkahl and Heiko Neumann Motorpark Mercedes, the number 65, and that is basically due to the crash that Heiko had in Budapest last time out. The repairs still underway.
Yeah, absolutely right. So not ideal for them. It means they do miss a round, and obviously that will affect the AM Championship because Giuseppe Cipriani has been leading the helm of that one. And obviously with Heiko Neumann, Timo Rivkar being the reigning AM champions, hoping to go back-to-back this season, that is a huge dent in their championship fortunes and hands yet another opportunity here for Giuseppe Cipriani to draw even clearer in that fight. But going back to the Pro Championship, as I said, Dominic Baumann and Mikael Pitamba yet to win a race this season. Their best result, that was second back at Portimao, and they only did that once, and we got a red flag out on track, and that's the reason. Just on the pit escape, not a lot of damage or debris, but obviously a hindrance to those cars that might be looking to leave the pit lane.
Yep, so that's the Lucas Dano Lorenzo Flux Motorpark Mercedes, number 96. Can't see who's in that car at the moment.
I think Lorenzo Flucher might be in it for this one, judging from what we're seeing, but obviously at this case, not ideal. And we were just talking about Motor Park's frailties with losing a car. Oh, he's got it running again. That's a relief. All the cars are still, I think, going to have to still return to the pit lane under usual red flag conditions. So good to see, though, he got it back up and running. No issues, though, for the Ferrari that we're currently watching, the Racing 1 Ferrari, who was still going through the tyres being uplifted off the car. But going back to the championship discussion, because Dominic Baumann and Mikael Pitamba yet to take a race win. Their best results, second place at Portimao in race 2. Marco Sieber, Diego Menchaca is second in the championship, also yet to take a race win, but have taken 2 second places, both at Hockenheim in race 1 and race 2. Not scoring, though, at Portimao in race 1 and race 2 at Hungaroring. So whilst obviously they may have the most podiums against Dominic Baumann and Mikael Pitamba, just because they didn't score in 2 of the races means that it has put them on the back foot quite a bit. Dominic Baumann and Mikael Pitamba, the only pairing to have scored points in every round, every race this season.
Yeah, and when you look at how the drop scores would affect that, because they would actually drop 8 points if we were to apply the drop score now, whereas Marcos Sieber and Diego Menchaca, well, anyone else in the field actually, we don't have to bother because they've had at least 2 non-scores. And so really, Baumann and Pitamba is the only car that affects at the moment, and when you actually apply it, it does put Sieber and Menchaca ever so slightly ahead.
Which really kind of goes against being consistent as your friend. I mean, it really isn't in that
Well, you
case.
still need to be consistent because you'd rather be losing the points than not have that option to, because that's a lot of pressure on everyone to be perfect to the end of the season,
It does,
basically.
it's
And
true.
like, talking about pressure, you know, with the Motorpark Mercedes that isn't here this weekend, they have to be perfect in the AM Championship for the rest of the season. Bearing in mind they're already on the back foot, they've already had a non-score as well this season. They're going to pick up 2 more here, and just the fact that Giuseppe Cipriani's been rather mega in that category so far, and you can apply that same philosophy to the overall championship as well. And so it is a lot of pressure on the chasing teams who have been very inconsistent. We've seen teams, you know, win a race and then not score in the next one, and so that consistency really is going to serve people well. And look at what happened last year, for example, George, with Chris Vassar and Simon Riker. They won their only race right at the end of the season and were very well placed in the championship because of it.
Becoming teams champions as well.
Yes, exactly, of course. So that's yeah, it definitely will serve you well as cars very slowly make their way back into pit lane. 26 minutes 7 seconds left on the clock. Speaking of the team's champions, here they are. Simon Riker at the wheel of the number 1 East Talent Racing Audi, and East Talent making a recent announcement to go and join the GT World Challenge grid with a rather stellar lineup alongside Simon Riker of Carroll Bash. Of course, their rival in the GT Open over at Olymp Racing, and Albert Costa as well. So that's
another former GT Open phenomenon, really, Albert Costa.
Yes.
Very well known, and I must say a serial winner as well in many ways. We actually witnessed him at Barcelona towards the tail end of last season in that final round, and of course there were quite a few moments when there was
he wasn't making friends, let's say. Well, not least because he went into the back of Carroll, didn't he, at the start of the race?
Yeah.
Yeah, hope they've cleared the air on that one before getting in the car together. But there's... So no times on the board yet from anyone. They only 12 cars I think actually made it out onto the track at all. Those are the ones we're seeing heading back into pit lane there. The Valour Corsa Mercedes there with some different colours on it compared to what we saw last time, isn't it? It was a black livery on that car last time. Probably, if you weren't going to run a white car, this would be the race to do it, because it's because of the heat that we were talking about. Now we have silence on the racetrack, 0 cars out there, and presumably once we get the last car in, we'll be able to go green again almost straight away, because we saw the guilty party, the 96 Motor Park Mercedes that brought out the red flag, did manage to get back going under its own steam. So we can run you through other slight changes in the lineup, because Leonardo Polcini has got a new teammate for this weekend, and the number 63 Oregon Lamborghini, as Rolf Eichen continues to recover from his injury that he sustained at Spa. And it's Amory Bonduelle, who is probably one of the fastest drivers in Lamborghini Super Trofeo Europe at the moment, and just did his first GT3 race 2 weeks ago at the Ultimate Cup at Hockenheim. That was in a Mercedes, though, so I think his first Lamborghini GT3 laps would have been this weekend during testing, and then, of course, yesterday's free practice. And fastest in free practice yesterday was the East Talent Racing Audi with a 2:01.982, just for reference, which is slightly above the lap record here, but of course that was held under race conditions, and also the free practice times usually are held on older tyres, so we often don't see the best performance out there, as the fast lane is open. And to the end of pit lane first was the Greystone GT McLaren, one of 2 McLarens we have the return of Ollie Webb and Andre Borodin from the British team as well, who's just behind them, in fact, actually, in the queue out of pit lane.
Yeah, Paul Borodin, I think, had a little spin in his own right, I think, in free practice yesterday. Got a little bit tied up coming through the Mistral chicane, but recovered very well. And so we've got 2 McLarens currently at the head of the field looking to rush out. I think that's the SPS in behind as well. Of course, part of the Baumann-Pitamba conglomerates that are looking to proceed with the championship lead in their palm, as they head now back out onto the track to resume qualifying 1. Of course, Fabian Schiller also back as well, alongside his teammate. Remember, race winner back at Portimao with Anthony Bartone in the familiar skull and crossbones livery. Hopefully they'll be hoping, obviously, to go a step further. Now, speaking of past performances alike, we've got Team Oregon back here, of course, with 3 cars. We alluded to Polcini's teammate change. Of course, the Oregon team went ahead and took pole back-to-back in last season's affair. Race 1, qualifying 1, I should say. Pierre-Louis Chauvet, Maximilian Paul taking pole in that one. They then did exactly the same the following race as well, to pretty much clean up the weekend in terms of qualifying. Same could not necessarily be said during the race, though Chauvet and Paul did have their opportunity, that they did have a puncture on race 1, but they did go ahead and take victory in race 2, however, which was a sensational effort. And I caught up with Jerry Canavicio, and he is, as always, full of beans when it comes into a race weekend. His regular, exuberant self, wearing multicoloured trousers once again, which we do love to see. And no doubt you've got to give Oregon a chance, especially when you factor in that you've got the 2022 champion Leonardo Polcini also back in one of your cars as well, the Lamborghini factory driver alike too. But the cars now making their way through Scene Corner. They'll all be looking to try and find optimal track position, and this is where the chess game is going to ultimately be played out, because you've got a variance in standard of driver. Of course, you've got your pros, your Rams out there on track, so it's so integral to find that clean air. As you can now see, the car belonging to Bergstrom and Menzel trying to find that clean air as well. A little bit of a flex to the fingers before he then hits the wheel again, but it's all about finding that clear track space, Chris, to maximise your opportunity through a lap.
And I'm told as well in this session to expect most of the AM drivers in the Pro-Am pairings to take the wheel for this session, because we're expecting rain tomorrow morning, and so they prefer to have the pro drivers in the car for a potentially wet session. And so we'll expect to see that in the Pro-Am Championship. And yeah, actually just looking at the drivers coming through, it's Polcini and Bashar Mardini as well, Andre Borodin and Stuart Proctor in the Greystone GTs, Maciek Blasek as well. Yeah, pretty much all the Pro-Am cars have got their AM driver in at the moment.
Yeah, certainly do for the initial stages to qualify. We taught you through free practice as well. I did allude to Andre Borodin having a moment at Mistral, but the results as far as the tests were concerned, private test, fastest was Marco Polcini, Riccardo Agostini. Of course, Agostini coming in place of Eddie Cheever, as we discussed, and Agostini in his own right, very fast driver. Like free practice one, Alessio Deletta and Jordan Pepper went fastest with a 2:02.479 for Team Oregon, and they'll be hoping for another big result this weekend. Free practice two went the way of Antara Izawa and Alessio Picciarello with a 2:17.578. So a great job from the Porsche outfit to secure that result there. A little bit off pace-wise, but certainly by the looks of it, Deletta and Pepper looking very strong in FP1.
And so we talked about the Pro-Am fight as well. Yeah, in 27 we alluded to just now. Ricky Agostini back in the International GT Open because he was with Nicola Marinangeli in the AF Corsa Ferrari last year. They were race winners, but he's filling in for Eddie Cheever, who's racing elsewhere this weekend. Cars building up to their first flying laps. Just listen to the symphony that is GT3 racing, as we have a mix of the V8s, the flat sixes, the turbocharged V6s, as well as the V10s out there on the track. And so this is the number 95 Motor Park Mercedes. Morten Stromsted currently at the wheel of the car, just building up towards a lap. And we do now have the first times coming in. Stuart Proctor currently fastest at 2:04.954. Yannick Mettler is the one setting the pace in the car barn by SBS Mercedes, and he goes top on a 2:02.712. So they've gone against the curve because they've got Yannick Mettler in rather than Dexter Muller at the moment, whereas everyone else seems to have the AM in at the moment. So and now a moment here for the Pellin Racing Ferrari, one of their wildcard appearances for the year, and it's Thor Haugen who's gone off at turn 4, which is in the middle of the hotel chicane that Yannick Mettler's just made his way through there, and that is the old Ferrari 488 GT3 car, the sole one that remains, and just lit up those rear tires. Oh no, that's actually the Racing 1 Ferrari that had a moment first. Ernst Kirkmeyer, and then presumably Thor Haugen's going to have his own moment just behind him. And yeah, there he is, right in the background. So we didn't see what happened because we were too busy watching Ernst Kirkmeyer rejoin the track, who also has a new teammate for this weekend, with Luca Ludwig no longer doing double duties in GT Open and GT Cup. He's focusing on the GT Cup program, where he's fighting for the title with Mertel Motorsport. And so it's David Fuminelli, who is with Ernst Kirkmeyer in Budapest, sticking around for the rest of the season, and he really is in safe hands there with David Fuminelli alongside him, as we continue to watch Yannick Mettler at the wheel of the car barn by SBS Mercedes, going through Le Bousset, and he is on he was on a good lap in the first sector. We'll see if he does manage to improve. Of course, he did go through that yellow flag zone as well. But it's Alam Kader who's setting the pace. Vincent Abril has gone fastest by a 1/10 of a second while we were watching all of that. But there is Kader in the AF Corsa Run Blau Motorsport Ferrari 296, our 2020 Pro-Am champions as well, with Marcelo Hand. So they've also gone against the curve. Alam Kader being the pro in the Pro-Am lineup. So it's going to be a real split field here amongst the Pro-Am runners.
Yeah, I think so. Kader with a great chance. Also, I did see Menchaka pulling together the first sector. Incidentally, folks, I made a colossal error on my FP2 result. It was indeed Simon RICARD, Christopher Haas at 2:01.982. And they, funny enough, looking back at the stats, they did exactly the same thing last season as Jordan Pepper goes fastest. Kader now second. They actually went fastest in FP2 last season as well, which was quite interesting to look back at. But it's still Pepper up at the top. As I said, they went fastest free practice 1. And now showing that same pace again here in the opening stages of qualifying. Vincent Abril, who was on top briefly earlier on, now looks to go faster again. Purple in Sector 1 with a 32.225. Pepper has now just taken that back away from him as well, though Abril has improved again with a personal improvement, 37.352 coming out of Sector 2 in the Ferrari. Burning red here at Le Castellet once again, and this is a pairing, of course, that marched alongside the likes of Nicola Marinangeli, who has ever improved in GT3 machinery as well. Of course, joined the championship last season. Abril, no doubt, providing a good bit of tutelage to the young man as now he makes his way around the next left-hander. Pepper going purple in that first sector, as I said, 33.065. Trying to find a little bit more in Sector 2, but you need to be wary of the amount of traffic that you do have out there. Vincent Abril now up towards the line, trying to rip away the top spot from Jordan Pepper, and he does at 2:01.983. But Pepper, it won't be long before he joins the fray, but he's got traffic as well, and unfortunately that's going to put a huge stopper in what could have been a great lap.
Still 17.5 minutes to go. There's still plenty of time for Jordan Pepper to try and nail in a good lap, but for sure he would have come a little unstuck against Thor Haugen's Pelin Racing Ferrari there going into Le Bousset, having to round that car up. Pepper back behind the wheel after that clash with the IMSA Championship in Budapest, so he's very much flying the flag for Alessio De Leda's title campaign now. So he goes across the line and yet lost 3 seconds at the end of the lap there, so he'll have to go again. And here we're going to see exactly how he got past the Pelin Racing car, and you see having to take such a narrow line through Le Bousset. Not an ideal moment for his qualifying lap, of course. Oh, a spin here for the car collection Porsche, and that's Hash in the number 12 car, one of their 2 Pro-Am entries that's gone round what looked like turn 2.
Yeah, the car's now looking to settle down again. Still 16 minutes and 30 to go. We just caught sight as well of the Bartow and Schiller car. Schiller currently sat 5th fastest at the moment and improving on this current lap. Vincent Abril improving again on this lap. Purple with a 33.004 in Sector 1, 37.177 in Sector 2, finding yet more time and nearly crossing into the 4/10th improvement mark. 2:01.983 of the round for now holds on to top spot, just under 0.2 of a second between Pepper and Abril, and that could extend even further come the end of this lap, because Pepper, and according to the timing screen, not improving on this particular lap. It certainly wasn't a personal best in this stint. Abril, though, is going to look to march onwards and heighten his personal best again this time around. Comes up towards the line. Lost a little bit of time, though. 12 thousandths down off his best lap.
He seemed a little wide at a turn 12 Bendor corner. That might have been where he lost the time, but Vincent Abril going for another lap in the 51 AF Corsa Ferrari. Oh, sorry, the Spirit of Race AF Corsa Run car.
Flusha seems to have recovered well after that moment that caused the red flag earlier on, of course, just losing the car's power outside of the pit lane. Actually, a personal improvement on part of Lorenzo Flusha coming into Sector 3 now after 2 green sectors in Sectors 1 and 2. Flusha now coming through the latter sector, but Abril once again finding that pace in that first sector. That seems to be where he finds it. Second sector, obviously, we know about the Ferrari straight line speed ability heading down to Mistral. It's all about that third sector, Chris.
Yeah, he's improving so far as he heads into the Mistral chicane. And the end of the lap so technical, it's the one where it really makes a difference in terms of the lap time. If he catch maybe just the slightest hint of a slipstream off the Audi in front of him, but yeah, another improvement in the middle sector as he flies through Scene Corner. It's just the lightest dab of the brakes, or maybe even in that Ferrari you don't even have to brake, because that car's got so much downforce. And was that just the slightest little wiggle in the Bousset? Yes, it was, and he missed the second apex there on the right hand side, so that is another little error there from Vincent Abril in the final sector, and I think he's backed out of the lap now because he can see the traffic in front of him. Simon RICARD was rounding up Hash there in front of him, one of the AM drivers, and now Abril headed for pit lane.
Yeah, unfortunate there for Vincent Abril. Doesn't seem to find a lot of luck in that latter sector, unfortunately for him. So now coming in to have a rethink. There's still got time though, 30 minutes and 45. And there's still plenty of other cars out on track that can no doubt try and muscle their way through. Jordan Pepper currently second fastest. Alam Coder, as well as his teammate, coming off the back of a reasonable run last time out. Of course, have been prior winners in the International GT Open in the past. But in recent times, obviously, by the looks of it, it's Ferrari that are looking the strongest in this session, at least for now. But we've got the Libor Milotta, Philip Salakada, ISR Audi back here in the championship as well. Great to see them all the way from the Czech Republic. And now racing down the long Mistral Straight. And going to be joined as well, we've got in the background as well another Mercedes AMG GT3, two of them now in tandem following after this ISR Audi LMS R8. But Abril in charge. The gap now is just under 0.2 of a second. Abril, the only driver in the 201s.
Yeah, it's matched what, in fact, he's 1,000th of a second slower than what Chris Haase managed in the East Talent Audi yesterday. So I think there's still a little bit of speed to find out there as we're on board with Tom Jackson in the 108 car. They're returning to the championship, the Vimana by Get Speed Pro-Am entry. You can listen to the rumble of that 6.2 litre V8 through the final sector. Tom Jackson back in the championship, of course, been with his bronze driver Amir Naran for a few seasons now. They did the Brick Car Championship together last year in the GT4 category. Now making the step up to international GT Open competition with the GT3 car, of course. As we see Jordan Pepper was unable to find those last couple of tenths that he needed on Vincent Abril, but we'll be looking for them there in the number 10. And Yannick Mettler in pit lane, who second of the Pro-Am runners is Alam Kader, who's currently fastest in Pro-Am in third position overall. And then in the AM category, slightly further down, we have Christian Korzanowski ahead of Roberto Lacorte, who we haven't talked about. It's another wildcard appearance for the Cetelar Racing, of course, run Ferrari. Of course, a very familiar name in the World Endurance Championship and the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship as well. So great to have Roberto with us for the weekend in the AM category. So still 4 cars out there.
Quite the racing family as well, because his son Nico is racing this weekend in single-seaters too.
Yes.
So both father and son marking racing appearances at La Castellet here at this weekend, which is always lovely to see. And as we now watch as the partnership of our championship leader, in fact, of course, the combination of Baumann and Pitamba that have been so consistent. We've, of course, discussed it at length already since the start of the broadcast. Pitamba currently sat 15th with a 2.4, nearly 2.5 second gap off our current provisional pole sitter, Vincent Abril, should it stay like this. But 10 minutes and 20 can provide an awful lot. Pitamba opting to remain out on track. Let's see what he can muster in. Of course, Pitamba's someone who's managed to pull out the most extraordinary results through a campaign. I mean, I hark back to his impressive defending back at Barcelona at the end of last season. We can't stop talking about it because it just was that good.
Yeah, of course, had a slightly disappointing Budapest race 1. It was very treacherous conditions for the South African as the rain came down with just a few minutes to go. They were on slick tyres and he dropped the car from the lead of the race, and he said I didn't want to come back. He was done. He had to muster up all his strength really to come back for the second day, but galvanized somewhat by a podium finish in race 2. That has given them the lead of the championship, and so I'm sure Mikhail is raring to go this weekend and try and finally score that car's first win of the season and redeem himself from what happened in Budapest. But 4 tenths down in the first sector. As it stands, he makes his way down the Mistral, building up the speed in that Mercedes, heading into the chicane. And takes a lot of curb there, does young Mikhail.
Certainly does. Committed, that's for sure, but obviously it doesn't necessarily help the lap time at this point. But coming out of the chicane now bursting through towards Scene Corner at turn 10. Let's see what the SPS Performance Mercedes can pull out the bag. Of course, Dominic Baumann, a very useful and safe pair of hands for that team as well. I mean, they must be ruining the day somewhat, because we look back at Hungaroring, where there were immense opportunities in race 1 for this pairing to go and take the win, but the actual conditions, the elements providing a bit of a complication for them, and it all came really undone at the very end of the race, much to the delight of Vincent Abril, no less, who went on to go and take a tremendous result that weekend. But here we'll keep our eyes peeled on Pitamba, looking to elevate himself out of 15th and further up the table to give himself the best chance for racing action later on this afternoon. 6 tenths, nearly 7 tenths coming out of the second sector. Let's see what the third sector can deliver for the Mercedes driver. Here comes Pitamba, goes 10th quickest. 5 places gained in that lap.
And our provisional Pro-Am pole sitter, Alam Kader, currently under investigation for a pit lane infringement. So we'll see what that's about later on, hopefully. Currently third fastest is the Brazilian. As we see Lorenzo Fluxer here. So that car not lacking any speed despite bringing out the red flags earlier on. And in fact, fastest in the middle sector is the Spaniard, who is now going to be a more permanent position in that car that Charles Bateman started off the year in, and they might need to still find a replacement, as of course Lorenzo is also racing in the European Le Mans Series Championship this year with Cool Racing. And so far, and of course we saw him in the Euroformula as well. So far this year, Lorenzo's been ticking off single-seaters, prototypes and GTs. I wouldn't expect to see him in a rally championship anytime soon, or maybe even as he goes second fastest for Team Motorpark. Heck, maybe even a MotoGP team is sniffing around him at this rate.
Well, why doesn't he do the GT Cup Open and do a GT Sport clean sweep, I should say. Jordan Pepper now showing his pace and flexing his muscles once again. Purple in the first sector, finding 2 tenths. Losing a little bit of time, though, in the second sector, but it's a personal, at best, a personal improvement in that second sector. Not enough, though, to necessarily take it off Abril, who's still at the very top of the timing screens. Though Jordan Pepper, I must say, looking dialed in. We alluded to that free practice 1 session that brought them that 2:02.479 to the darts. No doubt Alessio Deletta watching on, hoping that he'll pull together the best results possible. Fabian Schiller, also all eyes on him. Currently 6th fastest in the timing screen, has managed to find a reasonable amount of time as well. Well and truly green coming out of Sector 2. What can Sector 3 bring? It's fastest for Fabian Schiller. Fantastic effort with a 2:01.364. The final 2 sectors gifting him purple. Abril, though, coming back. He's purple coming out of Sector 1. But what about Jordan Pepper? Will he be able to join Schiller? Will he unseat Fabian Schiller? Here comes Jordan Pepper now, up towards the line. Backing out of the lap, unfortunately. A little error coming through the third sector, but he was fastest in the first 2.
Yeah, he certainly was, but yeah, really slowed down there. But this is Vincent Abril, who's found a 1/4 of a second in the first sector, unleashes the taps on the 3-litre twin-turbo V6 up the second half of the Mistral. He has lost a little bit of time, though, in the middle sector. So as he flies through Scene Corner, and Fabian Schiller also bringing the pace on this next lap as well. So it's looking like a 4-way fight at the moment between 2 Mercedes, 1 Ferrari and 1 Lamborghini as well, from 4 different teams as it stands, as Abril makes his way through that third and final sector. And this is the sector that's he's really been coming unstuck at on those last 2 attempts we saw of the Monegasque driver, heading towards Virage Dupont. And let's see if this one is any better for him. So he drives up towards the line. And is this going to be a pole position effort? Fabian Schiller's lost time in the middle sector. That'll be good news for Abril, but it's still second only for Vincent Abril by 0.05 of a second. What's Jordan Pepper got on this next one? He's improved in the middle sector, as Schiller, we can see, he's backed out of this one. So where is the number 10? We've got 2 Oregon Lamborghini line astern. This is Amory Bonduel making his GT Open debut, the Belgian driver, stepping in for Rolf Ineiken alongside Leonardo Polcini. And now here is Pepper. He's a 10th down as it stands, but it is an improvement in the middle sector for the South African, the Lamborghini factory driver. He couldn't ask for a better battle up at the front between the likes of Schiller, Pepper and Abril as well, but he's going to get blocked here by Laurent Demeas right at the last corner. The AF Corsa Run Ferrari in exactly the wrong place at exactly the wrong time, and Pepper trying to make the best of a bad situation with a slipstream up towards the timing line. He does improve, but it's only third fastest and still more than half a second down.
And there's a stampede of cars further back that are also looking to improve. Diego Menchaca, Yannick Mettler as well. Mettler's managed to muscle in a 33.159 out of Sector 1. Menchaca looking to improve with a 33.246, and he's just put in a personal best again in Sector 2. Vincent Abril, a personal best in the second sector for him on this account as well. So we're going to get a furious finish at this stage with many drivers looking to ferry in their best laps with 3 minutes to go. The checkered flag not too far away. Fastest in the speed trap, Jordan Pepper, who's just notched himself up to third as we saw it. But Vincent Abril improving ever so and trying to charge after Fabian Schiller's provisional pole time right now. But it can all change come the end of this clock. He's found nearly 2/10 in the first sector. Lost a little bit, though, in the second sector, but still remains purple. But I think has backed out of it again coming through the final sector. He's slowed up immensely coming through Pont Corner. So again, getting hampered at the very last moment when it looks like he's going to be on for a dramatic improvement. He's going to have the clock up against him here. It's coming up to closing time. Can he find something in these dire moments?
He'll have 2 more runs at it if he doesn't need a cool down, and Jordan Pepper's not cooling down at all. He's flying out there as it stands. 2 improvements in the first and second sector aboard the Lamborghini as Jerry Canavicio and co watch on. There's evidence of the colourful trousers we were alluding to there. George, those are on the quieter end of the scale for Jerry. You should see what happens when he wins.
Oh, I know.
Jordan out of the last couple of corners here, coming up towards Virage Dupont at the last corner, just making his way through this left-hander, and then still a little bit of traffic, but not as bad as last time around, and he might just catch a bit of a slipstream off the Mercedes in front of him as well. And the timing line so far down the straight, the exit of the last corner is still so important as he goes across the line, and it looks like he stays third fastest. Yes, he does. He has reduced the deficit. It's now just under 0.3 of a second, but Pepper still on the second row of the grid as it stands.
Yeah, it's not all bad though for Oregon. Bonduelle has now moved up to 8th place. That's 3 Oregon cars in the top 10, so that might yet help them. Alan Coder goes into 4th. Menchaca now dropped to 5th as Coder takes his Pro-Am entry into the top 4. That is absolutely exceptional on their part. Schiller, though, still up at the top. Can't yet be alleviated from that first place with Abril constantly chopping at that wood, but it's 76 thousandths between the 2 drivers up at the top. There is Pitamba, who has just brushed past Schiller now.
Yeah, so Schiller's not going to improve. So it's going to be all eyes on Vincent Abril to see if he can
we're in the final
take
minute.
Yeah, pole position away. So Pepper's slowed down as well. So it's just Vincent Abril now who's left, as Aaron Walker has suddenly put his Get Speed Mercedes second amongst the Pro-Am runners as well. Great stuff from him as we watch Mikhail Pitamba try and improve on that 11th place spot he's in at the moment. Diego Menchaca, we can see on the bottom of the screen, has got 2 personal bests in the first 2 sectors as well. So 2 Mercedes from 2 different outfits trying to move forward here. So we're in the last few seconds of this qualifying session now. And Pitamba coming through the Bendor turn, and he's got clear track in front of him as well, but bailing for the pit lane. So it won't be any better than 12th now for our championship leader, as Simon Riker has just put the team's champions East Talent Racing into the top 10. Checkered flag is now out, and Menchaca didn't look like he improved in the end on that last lap. Something must have happened in the 3rd sector, but he did get across the timing line in time to put another lap in, but the first sector time wasn't his best.
No, I think Menchaca will take some solace, I think, in the fact he's in that top 6 equation. When the driver change period comes around as well, Marcos Seibert will be stepping in alike. Of course, the LMS champion from last season, and looking to come back and help Menchaca to the GT Open title, the title that he just missed out on at the very last point, the very last day of asking back at Barcelona last season. But it looks like it's going Fabian Schiller's way right now. Vincent Abril not able to break into that 76 thousandths gap. at this stage, and it looks like he's actually on a slow run as well. The times in the second sector has dropped off immensely. Diego Menchaca finding a little bit of an improvement again, though, in P6 coming out of Sector 2.
Well, I say yellow flags on the run from turns 9 to 10, and we couldn't see anything there, but it is green there now. But, let's see if Menchaca can do anything with this. He has put in a personal best in the middle sector. It's currently 6th position for the number 17 Team Motor Park car that is also yet to win a race. This season they've had 4 podium finishes to their name, been incredibly consistent in that regard after a very disappointing start to the season. The Mexican up towards the line can't improve, and so it is the 3rd row of the grid for Diego Menchaca, but beating his Motorpark teammate Lorenzo Fluxa to the top 6. And Abril ended up bringing it into pit lane as well, so it is Fabian Schiller who will start on pole position, and there he is.
Fabian Schiller already with the helmet off. No questions as to why. It's very hot out there, but all smiles and thumbs up on part of Schiller, who is going to look to send a chiller here during this very hot weekend. We'll need one as well.
And put on a thriller.
Yeah, absolutely right. And you'll have to tune in later on to see whether he does pull off that thriller. But Vincent Abril, I think, is going to be a little bit regrettable. Obviously, losing out on potential P1 success and taking pole, given the fact that he would encounter a few issues in the final sector of asking. But let's take you through those standings off the back of a sensational qualifying. Fabian Schiller, fastest driver. P1 goes to him with a 2:01.344. Vincent Abril second, Jordan Pepper third, Alan Coder fourth, Aaron Walker fifth, Diego Menchaca sixth, Lorenzo Fluxa in seventh, Yannick Mettler in eighth, Amari Bonduel in ninth, and then we have Simon Riker in 10th place for East Talent Racing. 11th place we go to Marzio Moretti, with 12th place going to Mikael Petamba, 13th for Roberto Lacorte, and then we have Christian Korzanowski in 14th, second place down behind Lacorte. Gustav Bergström in 15th, Tom Jackson in 16th, Giuseppe Cipriani in 17th, with Marco Polcini in 18th, 19th for Macy Blacksek, and then we have in 20th place Morten Stromsted, in 21st for Stuart Proctor, 22nd for Alessandro Cosi, 23rd Bashar Mardini, 24th Michael Blancheman, and then we have in 25th Marcin Jed Linsky. Further down then Ernst Kirkmeyer, Kiki Satnana, Puato Wera, Lauren DeMeus, Hash down in 30th place. And for Car Collection Motorsport Porsche. And we have an interview with Alfredo.
Fabian Schiller, pole position here for race 1 at Paul Ricard, the second of the year, I think, for you. After a very nice session and a very nice fight with the Ferrari.
Yeah, it was a tricky session, especially with the red flag at the beginning and so on. But yeah, it worked out well for us. The car was very good, and great start for our weekend, of course.
Paul Ricard, always challenging. Huh?
It's definitely a challenging track. You know, it looks easy, like runoff and flat, but it's very technical. It's hard for our car with bottoming, and the curbs are quite high. So yeah, it keeps the mechanics on their toes over the weekend, but yeah, we have a great team behind us and a great car, and obviously starting on pole is great today.
And of course, very warm weather, that's the main concern for everybody.
Yeah, it will be very, very hot today. Luckily, I'm in a Mercedes, we have quite nice airflow, you know, coming in the car, so it's not that bad.
Well done, see you later.
So there we have it, folks. Fabian Schiller, fastest here. Can he take it all the way for victory later on this afternoon? Join us then for the race.